You don't lose self-control because you're weak. You lose it because discomfort scares you. That tight feeling in your chest, that urge to escape, that moment when staying feels harder than quitting. Most people don't fail because they can't control themselves. They fail because the moment things become uncomfortable, they run. They call it self-care. They call it protecting their peace. But in reality, they're avoiding pain. And avoidance always looks calm from the outside. You look relaxed. You look composed. You look like you're not reacting. But inside, something else is happening. You're not choosing control. You're choosing relief. And relief is the enemy of self-control. The Stoics understood something that most people today refuse to face. Self-control is not calm. It's endurance. It's the ability to stay present when everything inside you wants to escape. To remain still when reacting would feel better. To endure discomfort without turning it into an excuse. Marcus Aurelius didn't practice self-control because it made him feel good. He practiced it because it trained him to face reality without flinching. Epictetus didn't teach discipline as a way to be peaceful. He taught it as a way to stop being ruled by impulses. Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable. If you can only stay calm when life is easy, you don't have self-control. You have comfort. And comfort collapses the moment pressure appears. In this video, we're going to dismantle a dangerous myth that self-control means feeling calm, centered, or unbothered. It doesn't. Real self-control feels tense. It feels restrictive. It feels uncomfortable. And that's exactly why so few people have it. If you've ever wondered why you react emotionally, why you quit when things get hard, or why discipline feels impossible, this is not a motivation video. This is a confrontation. Because once you understand what self-control actually demands, you can no longer lie to yourself. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. Discomfort isn't the problem. Your relationship with discomfort is. The moment tension appears, boredom, anxiety, frustration, temptation, your brain immediately asks one question: how do I make this stop? Not, what does this require of me? Not, what is the disciplined response? Just, how do I escape? So you reach for the fastest exit available. Your phone, food, porn, anger, overthinking, quitting, different tools, same intention, relief. And your brain learns a dangerous lesson. Discomfort equals threat. Avoidance equals safety. Every time you escape discomfort, you reinforce the belief that you can't handle it. And over time, that belief becomes your identity. I'm just not disciplined. I'm not built for pressure. I need peace to function. No, you've simply trained yourself to run. Self-control isn't a personality trait. It's a tolerance for friction, a tolerance for inner resistance, a tolerance for not getting what you want immediately. The Stoics were brutally clear about this. You don't control events. You don't control outcomes. You don't even control emotions when they first appear. What you control is whether you obey them. And obedience doesn't feel calm. It feels like holding still while something inside you demands movement. It feels like staying silent when your ego wants to react. It feels like continuing when quitting would bring instant relief. That's why most people confuse emotional numbness with discipline. They say, I don't care anymore. I've detached. I'm unbothered. But real detachment doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you feel everything, and you don't let it decide for you. Avoidance numbs. Discipline endures. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you always need to feel good to function, you're fragile. Because life doesn't negotiate. Pressure will appear, discomfort will return. And when it does, comfort-based discipline collapses instantly. So the question is no longer, why do I lack self-control? The real question is, how quickly do I try to escape discomfort? Because that answer explains everything. Modern culture has a favorite lie. It says, if it feels bad, step away. If it stresses you, remove it. If it's uncomfortable, it's not for you. They call this wisdom. They call this growth. They call this self-care. The Stoics would call it weakness. Not because rest is wrong, not because peace is bad, but because avoiding discomfort has been rebranded as virtue. Today, quitting is framed as boundaries. Escaping is framed as healing. Emotional avoidance is framed as maturity. And slowly, quietly, people are training themselves to be intolerant of reality. Any tension feels like danger. Any pressure feels like oppression. Any resistance feels like a sign to stop. But life doesn't work that way. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire under constant war, plague, betrayal, and exhaustion. Yet he never wrote about protecting his energy. He wrote about duty, endurance, staying upright under weight, because Stoicism was never about comfort. It was about capacity. How much reality can you face without breaking your character? How much discomfort can you endure without becoming reactive, bitter, or impulsive? That's self-control. Not the absence of stress, but the refusal to let stress dictate your actions. Here's the danger of comfort-based living. The more you optimize for ease, the less capable you become. Your threshold shrinks. What used to feel manageable now feels overwhelming. What used to be challenging now feels unbearable. So you need more comfort, more escape, more distraction just to function. That's not peace. That's dependency. And discipline cannot exist in dependency. Epictetus warned about this exact pattern. He said, "Don't seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do. And your life will go smoothly. Not comfortably, smoothly. Because you're no longer at war with discomfort. You're no longer trying to remove it. You're learning to carry it. And that changes everything. When discomfort stops being an emergency, self-control becomes possible. When tension no longer triggers escape, discipline finally has space to exist. That's why the question isn't, how do I feel less discomfort? It's, how do I stop obeying it? Because the moment you stop treating discomfort like a threat, it loses its power over you. And most people never reach that point, not because they can't, but because they choose comfort before they choose control. Let's make this real. Self-control doesn't show up when you feel motivated. It shows up when you don't. It doesn't appear in big, dramatic moments. It appears in quiet, ordinary situations where no one is watching. It feels like this. You want to check your phone, and you don't. Not because you're calm, but because you choose to sit with the restlessness instead of escaping it. You feel misunderstood in a conversation, and you stay silent. Not because you're detached, but because reacting would satisfy your ego, not your values. You're tired halfway through something important, and you continue. Not because you're inspired, but because quitting would be easier. This is what no one tells you. Self-control feels tight. Your body wants release. Your mind wants justification. Your emotions want expression, and you deny them. Not forever, not violently, just long enough to stay aligned with who you decided to be. That moment, that pause between impulse and action, is the entire battlefield. Most people don't lose control explosively. They lose it subtly. They tell themselves, just this once. I deserve a break. I'll start again tomorrow. And in that moment, they're not weak. They're uncomfortable. So they choose relief. But every time you override an impulse, even a small one, something shifts. You prove to yourself, I can stay. I can stay with boredom. I can stay with frustration. I can stay with desire without obeying it. And that proof compounds. This is why Stoics trained daily, not when things went wrong, but when things were ordinary. Because discipline isn't built in crisis. It's built in repetition, in choosing the harder response when the stakes feel small, in tolerating discomfort before it becomes overwhelming. That's what self-control really is. Not suppression, not numbness, not pretending you don't feel anything. It's staying present while every part of you demands escape. And here's the part most people miss. The more you practice this, the less dramatic it feels. Not easier, but familiar. Discomfort stops feeling like an emergency. Impulses stop feeling like commands. They become signals, noticed, but not obeyed. And that's when discipline stops feeling impossible. Not because life is calmer, but because you are no longer ruled by relief. If self-control is endurance, then it has to be trained. Not with motivation, not with affirmations, not with hype, with exposure. The Stoics didn't wait for discipline to appear. They voluntarily stepped into discomfort, not to punish themselves, but to remove fear from it. They practiced cold, hunger, silence, restraint, not because suffering was noble, but because familiarity kills panic. You don't need extremes, you need consistency. Here's the framework. First, choose discomfort on purpose. Do small things that feel slightly wrong to avoid. Sit with boredom for 5 extra minutes. Delay a craving instead of obeying it immediately. Finish the task even after the urge to stop appears. Nothing heroic, just intentional resistance. Second, don't narrate it. Most people fail here. They talk to themselves, this is hard. This shouldn't feel like this. I need a reason. That inner commentary turns discomfort into drama. The Stoics didn't complain internally. They observed. This is pressure. This is desire. This is fatigue. And they stayed. Silence removes half the suffering. Third, don't reward yourself with escape. This matters. If every act of discipline is followed by indulgence, you're not training control. You're training bargaining. Discipline isn't, I'll endure this so I can escape later. It's, I'll endure this because endurance is the point. Relief weakens the lesson. Presence strengthens it. Fourth, repeat daily, especially when it feels pointless. Self-control isn't forged when something is at stake. It's forged when it feels meaningless. That's why most people never build it. They only try when life is already burning, but by then, it's too late. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly. Your tolerance grows quietly. One resisted impulse, one completed task, one moment of staying instead of fleeing. And over time, your nervous system learns something new. Discomfort is survivable. Impulse is optional. Relief is not necessary. That's the shift. Not becoming calmer, becoming sturdier. Because when pressure appears, and it will, you won't need motivation. You'll have capacity. And capacity doesn't panic. It holds. Here's the truth most people spend their lives avoiding. You already know what discipline requires. You don't need another method. You don't need another video. You don't need to feel ready. You hesitate because you know it will be uncomfortable. And now you can't pretend otherwise. Every moment you lose control, it won't be because you were weak. It will be because you chose relief over endurance. And that choice is always available. Right now, today, in the smallest moments. When you feel the urge to escape, that's the moment. When tension rises and you look for distraction, that's the moment. When quitting would feel justified, that's the moment. Self-control is not built by eliminating these moments. It's built by staying inside them. No one is coming to make this easier. Life will not soften. Discomfort will not disappear. But you can change how you meet it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the obstacle becomes the way, not after it's removed, not after it feels comfortable, but while it's still heavy. So the question you're left with isn't, do I want more self-control? It's, what will I do the next time discomfort appears? Because that answer is who you are becoming, not in theory, not in intention, but in reality. If this hits something you recognize, don't look for comfort now. Sit with it. That tension you feel, that's the work.